Richard Nixon, the rise, fall, and legacy of America's most controversial president. Richard Nixon was one of the most complex and controversial figures in American history. He was a brilliant strategist and a determined leader, yet his presidency ended in scandal and disgrace. From his rise in politics to his shocking resignation, Nixon's story is a lesson in power, ambition, and the consequences of deception. Who was Richard Nixon? How did he reach the White House? And what led to his downfall? Let's explore the fascinating journey of the only U.S. president to resign from office. Early life and political beginnings. Richard Milhouse Nixon was born on January 9, 1913 in Yorba Linda, California. His family was poor and he grew up in a small farmhouse with no electricity or running water. Despite these hardships, Nixon was a hard-working student and excelled in school. In 1934, he graduated from Whittier College, where he's active in debate and student politics. He later attended Duke University School of Law, earning a scholarship due to his academic excellence. After law school, Nixon worked as a lawyer and later served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. His experiences in the military strengthened his sense of discipline and duty, qualities that would define his political career. In 1946, Nixon entered politics, winning a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. He gained national attention for his anti-communist stance, helping to investigate alleged communist influences in the U.S. government during the early days of the Cold War. By 1950, Nixon was elected to the U.S. Senate, and just 2 years later, he became Vice President of the United States under President Dwight D. Eisenhower. At just 39 years old, Nixon was one of the youngest vice presidents in U.S. history. First presidential run and political comeback. In 1960, Nixon ran for president against John F. Kennedy in one of the closest elections in U.S. history. The first ever televised presidential debate played a crucial role. Kennedy appeared calm and confident, while Nixon, who had been sick, looked pale and nervous. This debate is often credited with helping Kennedy win the election. After losing, Nixon stepped away from national politics. In 1962, he ran for governor of California but lost again. Many thought his career was over. Frustrated, he told reporters, "You won't have Nixon to kick around anymore." But Nixon was not finished. In 1968, he made a political comeback, running for president once again. This time, he promised to restore law and order, end the Vietnam War, and bring unity to a divided nation. He won the election, becoming the 37th president of the United States. Nixon's presidency, achievements and challenges. Nixon took office in 1969, facing major challenges including the Vietnam War, civil rights protests, and economic struggles. However, he also achieved significant successes. Key achievements: ending U.S. involvement in Vietnam. Nixon gradually withdrew American troops and negotiated a peace agreement, officially ending U.S. involvement in 1973. Improving relations with China. In 1972, Nixon became the first president to visit China, opening diplomatic relations between the two nations. Arms control with the Soviet Union. He signed the Salt-Ice Treaty, reducing nuclear weapons tensions during the Cold War. Domestic policies: created the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, and expanded Social Security and healthcare programs. Despite these accomplishments, Nixon's presidency was overshadowed by economic troubles, anti-war protests, and rising political tensions. However, nothing would damage his reputation more than the Watergate scandal. The Watergate scandal, Nixon's downfall. In June 1972, 5 men were caught breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. Investigators soon discovered that the burglars were connected to Nixon's re-election campaign. At first, Nixon denied involvement. He won re-election in 1972 by a landslide, but suspicions about his role in the break-in continued to grow. Over the next 2 years, journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein of the Washington Post uncovered a cover-up within the White House. The scandal deepened when it was revealed that Nixon had secretly recorded conversations in the Oval Office. When the Supreme Court ordered Nixon to release the tapes, they contained evidence proving that he had tried to obstruct the investigation. Facing impeachment and public outrage, Nixon had no choice but to resign. On August 8, 1974, he announced his resignation in a televised speech, becoming the first and only U.S. president to resign from office. After the presidency, Nixon's redemption. After resigning, Nixon was pardoned by President Gerald Ford, preventing him from facing criminal charges. However, his reputation was badly damaged. Over time, Nixon worked to rebuild his public image. He wrote books on international relations, gave speeches, and advised future presidents on foreign policy. By the late 1980s, Nixon was seen as an experienced statesman, though his legacy remained controversial. He passed away on April 22, 1994, at the age of 81. The legacy of Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon remains one of the most complex figures in U.S. history. His presidency is remembered for two contrasting legacies: his achievements, opened relations with China, reduced Cold War tensions with the Soviet Union, ended U.S. involvement in Vietnam, created the EPA and other domestic programs. His downfall: the Watergate scandal destroyed trust in government. His abuse of power led to his resignation. The public's view of politicians changed, leading to more skepticism about government transparency. Some historians argue that Nixon was a brilliant strategist and effective leader, while others believe he was corrupt and power-hungry. No matter how he's viewed, Nixon's impact on American politics cannot be ignored. What can we learn from Nixon's story? Richard Nixon's life is a lesson in power, leadership, and the dangers of deception. His rise to the presidency showed his brilliance and determination, while his fall demonstrated the importance of honesty and accountability in leadership. His presidency reshaped U.S. politics, proving that even the most powerful leaders are not above the law. Will history remember Nixon more for his achievements or his mistakes? That remains a question for future generations to decide. What do you think about Nixon's legacy? Was he a great leader who made crucial decisions for America? Or was he a president who let ambition destroy his career? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth looks at the most important figures in history.